Today is Monday, July 15th. We have updates about the attempted assassination of former President Trump, including info about the shooter, and how the attack has led to changes at this week's Republican National Convention. Also, almost all AT&T customers were impacted by a recent hack. We'll explain the info stolen and what to look out for now. Plus, 3 well-known people in Hollywood died over the weekend. The case against Alec Baldwin has been dismissed. And a new innovative spacesuit inspired by Dune. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The FBI is now investigating Saturday's shooting at a Pennsylvania rally and attempted assassination of former President Trump as a possible domestic terrorism attack. And they've identified the shooter. The 20-year-old gunman was shot and killed by Secret Service snipers. Authorities say he used an AR-style rifle that was bought legally by his father. They also found explosives in the car he was driving. But so far, there's no indication the shooter was part of a larger plot. And it's still not clear what his motivation might have been or whether he was targeting Trump specifically or just the rally as a whole. He was a registered Republican without a criminal record or history of mental health problems, although he had donated a small amount to a Democrat-aligned group a few years ago. Former President Trump was grazed by a bullet on his ear and treated at a local hospital. Thankfully, he's okay and was able to be released later that night. But sadly, a firefighter who attended the rally with his family was killed. Pennsylvania's governor says he threw himself on top of his family to shield them and died a hero. 2 other men were also badly hurt in the shooting, and at last check, they were both in critical condition. On top of the investigation into the attack itself, the Secret Service is facing harsh scrutiny over how a shooter only 400 feet away was able to take aim at a former president. President Biden says he's directed an independent national security review to investigate. As for the presidential campaign, Team Biden is pausing all television advertising for the time being and canceling many campaign events. In a primetime speech from the Oval Office, Biden told Americans it's time to, quote, lower the temperature in our politics. Biden went on to say there was no place in America for violence and that here, quote, we resolve our differences at the ballot box. Former President Trump shared that same sentiment on social media yesterday when he wrote simply, Unite America. The Republican National Convention will get started today as planned in the critical swing state of Wisconsin. And former President Trump will be there, ready to formally accept the party's presidential nomination. Though things are changing a bit in response to the rally shooting. Former President Trump told the Washington Examiner he has rewritten the speech he set to deliver on Thursday that it will now call for a new effort at national unity. Granted, organizers say much of the convention will still focus on criticizing President Biden and the Democrats as planned. And at least some of the speakers will do so while referencing the assassination attempt. Already, a few Republicans have blamed President Biden and other Democrats for the shooting, saying it would not have happened if it weren't for the harsh campaign rhetoric that's been coming up lately. Though again, we should mention investigators have not said one way or another whether the shooter was politically motivated. The RNC crowds will hear from members of the Trump family, as well as some of his former Republican rivals like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. Plus, there will be speeches from some of the GOP's rising stars, like South Carolina Governor Kristi Noem, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, as well as Senators Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance. One of them is even expected to be announced as Trump's running mate. Overall, more than 50,000 people are expected to attend the RNC, and thousands of protesters are expected to march nearby. The U.S. Secret Service and other officials say there are no known threats and that they're sticking with their original security plan. We'll, of course, bring you the highlights throughout the week here on The Newsworthy. It's now been a week since Hurricane Beryl ripped through the Houston area, and still, there are hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses without power. Over the weekend, Texas Governor Greg Abbott demanded an investigation into the utility that serves the country's 4th largest city and surrounding areas. He wants more of an explanation into their response and preparations for upcoming storms, since there are still months of hurricane season left. The utility company has defended itself, though, saying for years it's been investing to strengthen resilience to storms. And it says in the aftermath of Beryl, it's actually restored power at the fastest rate in the company's history. Other utilities also have tens of thousands of customers still without electricity. And with that, cooling centers are still open throughout the Houston area as it gets close to the city's hottest time of the year. The brutal heat wave that's been baking the U.S. has now shifted to the eastern half of the country, Over the next couple of days, cities like Baltimore and Washington, D.C. will experience temps up to 100 degrees. And tomorrow, it will at least feel like triple digits in the Northeast, like in New York City. That might not break records like Las Vegas and other Western cities did last week, contributing to dozens of deaths, but it can still be dangerous. So millions of people are now under heat alerts. As for the West Coast, people are getting a little bit of a break. For example, Las Vegas has dropped back to the usual 110 degrees instead of 120. The National Weather Service says, in general, much of the whole country will deal with above-average temperatures this week. All right, we have more news for you still coming up. But first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, ZocDoc. I love to try new things and just see what happens. And for some things, that is great. It does not require a lot of research or care to, try a new workout class or check out whatever restaurant you find along the way. But when it comes to choosing a doctor, I don't want that choice to be a total crapshoot. Thanks to ZocDoc, whenever I need a new doctor, I can be sure I'm quickly and easily finding and reviewing all the best options. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. I always at least check ZocDoc and consider the options there when I'm looking for a new doctor. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to the news. Scientists inspired by the popular book Dune, which also became a movie series, unveiled a revolutionary new spacesuit. Just like the full-body still suit worn in Dune, it collects astronauts' urine, then filters it into purified drinkable water. That's a big upgrade from NASA's current spacesuit that uses an absorbent diaper instead. Also, right now, astronauts get only 32 ounces of water on spacewalks, which many say is not enough, since the missions can be long and physically demanding. Well, scientists say the recycled urine should help supplement that supply as well, while being more hygienic. More testing is needed, though, before the suit can actually be used in space. There's a clinical trial planned for this fall. If you're an AT&T customer, chances are you are impacted by a recent cyber attack. The company says user data was compromised for nearly all of its 90 million cell phone customers and some wireless and landline customers between May and October of 2022. The data includes records of calls and text messages and some locations, but not sensitive information like social security numbers, birthdays, or passwords. It also doesn't actually include what was said in those calls and texts, just who you contacted, how often, and in some cases, from where. Granted, IT experts say this is still concerning. They explain that people who want to cause damage could do so by getting insight into your habits, like who you talk to and where you go. They might even try to trick you by pretending to be one of the people who you regularly communicate with by disguising their numbers. So people are being told to be extra vigilant about calls and texts that come in. AT&T says it does plan to contact everyone who was impacted. The company is also in contact with law enforcement to track down anyone who might have been involved. It's been a sad few days for the entertainment industry, saying goodbye to 3 well-known public figures. For example, Shannen Doherty, who's known for starring in shows like Beverly Hills 90210 and Charmed, died at 53 years old. She's been fighting breast cancer for several years, but unfortunately, the disease took her life on Saturday. Tributes have been pouring in from fans and co-stars like Jason Priestley and Alyssa Milano. Others are paying tribute to fitness guru Richard Simmons, who also died Saturday, just one day after his 76th birthday. Simmons came to fame through The Richard Simmons Show and exercise home videos like Sweating with the Oldies in the 1980s and 90s. He also played himself on TV shows, commercials, and even cartoons. So far, no word as to what might have caused his death. News of Simmons' passing came just hours after another celebrity death was announced. The iconic sex therapist Dr. Ruth Westheimer died at 96 years old. She was a leading advocate of sexual education for decades, sharing her wisdom on the radio, TV, and in dozens of books. And she joyfully doled out sex advice well into her 90s. Movie star Alec Baldwin's criminal trial has already come to an end. A judge dismissed his involuntary manslaughter case, saying police and prosecutors withheld evidence from the defense. and the case cannot be filed again. You'll remember the trial was over the death of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins, who was shot and killed on the scene of Baldwin's movie Rust. Rust's armorer was already found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 18 months in prison. Though she's still appealing, and her lawyer now says he's hoping a judge will dismiss her case on the same basis of Baldwin's. Separately, Baldwin and other producers still face civil lawsuits from Hutchins' family and crew members. To be continued. It was another big weekend for sports fans around the world. First up, what's often considered the most prestigious tennis championship in the world, Wimbledon. On the men's side, Carlos Alcaraz won for the second year in a row over seven-time champion Novak Djokovic. As for the women, Barbora Krejcikova, who was unseeded before the tournament, won her first Wimbledon title, calling it the best day of her life. Now on to soccer, since winners were crowned in two of the biggest international competitions outside of the World Cup. Spain won its record fourth European Soccer Championship by beating England 2-1. Then last night, Argentina won the Copa America final 1-0 against Colombia. That makes Argentina the top team in North and South America again. It now has the all-time most wins in the competition's long history. The U.S. was eliminated in the first round, and because of that, the team will be replacing its head coach. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, this episode is brought to you by Lumi. Who else loves the sweet sounds and smells of summer? Kids laughing and splashing around, the salty beach air, sunscreen at the pool. All of it is great. Although maybe not the BO that tends to come along with all that running around outside or simply sweating in the heat. That's why I use Lumi's whole body deodorant every day. No matter how hot it gets, Lumi helps me smell fresh and feel confident. I'm seriously still impressed with how effective Lumi is while still being paraben-free, aluminum-free, and baking soda-free. Lumi is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And as a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that equals over 40% off their starter pack. So use code NEWSWORTHY for 15% off your first purchase at LumiDeodorant.com. That's code NEWSWORTHY at Lumi, L-U-M-E, deodorant, DEODORANT.com. Okay, now back to Money Monday. Restaurants are having their biggest year ever. The National Restaurant Association says by the end of 2024, the industry will have brought in $1.1 trillion in sales. That's up about 5.5% from last year. And it's a huge turnaround since the pandemic brought some of the worst years ever for restaurants. But now, sales are far higher than even before the pandemic first started. Granted, there's still a lot of pressure in the business because of things like inflation and tough competition. But the market is still growing for restaurants that take advantage of current trends. Axios points to a lot of excitement around things like viral food on TikTok, new takeout and delivery options, and food apps. Technology is helping with the labor shortage as well, with more restaurants deciding to automate order and delivery systems. Some are even bringing robotics into their dining rooms. And the National Restaurant Association does expect that trend to only grow bigger. All right, thank you so much for listening today. Of course, we'll be back with even more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.